Welcome to another episode of Draft Room. I am Tom, and today we have designer and frontman to one of my favorite bands here in Huntsville, the Silver Silos, Taylor Burton. Taylor, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Tom. How are you?
I'm doing fine. All right, before we get into all my questions, let's get a little background of yourself. We're going to break in this episode into kind of two parts. We're going to talk about design. We're going to talk about music. So let's start from the beginning. What got you in design, and then we'll kind of slide right into music.
Canoeing is my third passion.
Oh, so we'll add canoeing right there to the end. All right, go ahead.
So my parents knew way before I did that I was going to be a designer one day. They didn't know what it was called. I think they called it commercial art because that's what it was called in the 60s when they were in college. So I grew up going to art classes, and I went to a fine arts high school in Augusta, Georgia, where there were no sports teams, but the mascot was truly the Flaming Rainbows. Shout out to Davidson Fine Arts, and
Nice.
there I was one of the only students I knew that was in a kind of an advanced level art and an advanced level music.
Okay.
And what that meant was that I excelled in neither one of them because my attention was so split, and it has kind of remained, my attention has remained split in that way to this day. And so I just run with it.
All right. So, like, one of my first questions for designers really is, what is some of your methods for approaching design projects? Right. We talked a little bit about this before. Obviously, some things that designers need to have is, thick skin and sort of an approach, a method for how they look at projects, how do they tackle them, how do we project manage them, get them through the finish line. So I like to talk a little bit about that, like the process on when you kind of have a project in front of you and you're trying to kind of work on it.
I think that one thing that I tell younger designers is that I've learned over the years that what I do is problem solve. And
Nice.
I think that it is really important when I'm starting with a client to figure out what the problem is, what the goal is. And if I'm too focused on how something looks before I'm focused on the function of the project rather than the form, then I get into trouble. So it's
Sure.
important to figure out the problem that you're solving before you do anything else.
That is a great segue. I had this talk at Design Week Huntsville, and my talk was about goal-oriented design and making sure you're establishing some of these, just kind of level setting with either your client, your stakeholders about what the expectations are for a project and then kind of meeting those expectations, right or wrong.
Right.
But at least you're on the same page about some of those things. So it seems like you kind of have that same sort of approach.
Yep. And it can be tricky because sometimes I work with folks that have worked with designers for years, and then other times I'm working with someone who's never worked with a designer, doesn't know how to speak the visual vernacular, and it gets tricky. And so I have to. That's when I get into a lot of visual aids, because that helps break through the language. There's a literal language barrier that you can get sometimes if your clients don't speak the vocab that you use in your daily design world.
Right. Yeah, I think a big part of some of that project management, or at least trying to get to successful projects, is that good communication.
Right.
And you're getting to some of the crux of it, where
Right.
if you're talking about DPIs or depth of field or grids, that you kind of lose some layman's on that side of it.
Yeah,
But
their eyes start to glaze over. Yeah. But
right.
that's when you pull up some examples or come up with metaphors and all kinds of things to kind of make it clearer for them. Jesus used parables to get concepts across.
Right, and look how well that went. So it's pretty good. So one thing I want to talk about is some of the way you kind of go about projects in maybe not in design, but in your personal life. You just mentioned to me earlier today about these sort of breaking up projects into small little pieces, into incremental 25-minute, tasks or time frames where you take larger projects and they become a little more uh, executable that way.
Yeah, less daunting.
Right. It reminds me of so I've been applying agile into design creative work for the last couple of years, and to me that's a very similar concept. You're breaking down projects into their smallest parts,
Yeah.
putting them within a time frame, and then you'll be able to measure
Right.
that success. So tell me how you use it in your sort of design approach.
Well, there's a concept called the Pomodoro method
Right.
that someone told me about, and that all that is somebody had a kitchen timer that was shaped like a tomato, and
Right.
the Italian word for that is Pomodoro. And so, in order to break up his day, he would just set the timer for 30, 40 minutes or something, and it became non-negotiable that during that time he was no nonsense,
Hyper-focused.
hyper-focused,
Right.
no nonsense, no excuses, but it's short-lived, and you'll have a break.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I've always been accused of, not having the greatest attention span in the world, and it's probably true. But I think that doing things like taking uh, intense workloads and breaking them up into smaller tasks is a great way to handle it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can relate to that because a lot of times you have these things that you need to do, especially around design projects. I do this all the time. It's maybe a design project that I'm not really into, or it's just, it's sort of a boring whatever, but it's large and it becomes this looming thing. And then when I do finally stop procrastinating and get around to it, I realize it wasn't that big of a deal, right?
The dread that you built for it becomes
Yeah.
much, much worse than the actual thing.
Exactly.
Then you get mad at yourself for having
You reflect
created-
back. And the worst part is you'll do it again a couple months later and be surprised all over again that it was not this daunting thing, right?
You just don't learn.
And
Right.
so maybe this kind of method where you break it into these smaller parts, like I'm not going to do the whole thing today.
Right.
I'm just going to accomplish this thing in 25, 35, 45 minutes, then have a break. Or something like
at
that.
the very least, it's this. And if I go beyond, great, but this is my bar that I'm setting.
Right. It's like giving yourself your own boundaries a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And then setting goals, small goals.
Sure.
But once you accomplish them, it's kind of you get your momentum.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
I like that whole concept. I think it's a great one. All right. I want to. We're going to zoom through this a little bit because I want so much more I want to get to.
round.
Right.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk about design work. I think you know that I am interested in the question around AI's sort of space in our space and what it looks like. And I think we have very similar opinions on this, but I think some other places we might kind of diverge a bit. But I want to get your ideas on what AI is doing now and maybe how do you use it or don't use it and what you're seeing for the future on how it can be used maybe ethically or maybe in a responsible way, or maybe you see the wheels coming off and it's just becoming impossible. But I'm curious what your thoughts are.
I mean, it's a huge topic and it's on everybody's mind. And I think that some of the examples that you've brought up on the draft room page have proven that it's a non-binary issue. There's so many shades of gray here.
Thank you. Yeah.
And yeah, I think it just depends on what you're using it for. I've been spending a lot of time getting to know ChatGPT lately. I've been on a kick, and but hardly any of it has been related to my day job or my moonlighting as a musician. A lot of it has just been trying to have someone else figure out some things for me quickly so I can get it off my mind.
Yeah.
And it's I think I think in the art and design world and music where I have problems with generative AI is first of all when it takes the place of the creative process, which is one of the great joys in life. And
Right.
I think that if you were letting a computer or rows and rows of computers crunch uh, you know, algorithms for you so that they can figure out creative problems, then you're missing out on a lot of interesting, um, fun, opportunities to grow yourself creatively.
Sure. So you're talking about, maybe your mood boards originally, your sketches, you're moving your way through process, eliminating things that aren't working, going down wrong paths, recorrecting, coming back down others. Is that the thoughts you're having around that process?
Mm, actually, it depends on how preliminary. Uh, if there are some prelim things, if there are preliminary parts of the process where I just feel like I'm in a rut,
Oh,
it's a good it's a good way to break out of a rut.
yeah.
There was a point where every flyer I made for the company that I was working for at the time had the same general structure
Yeah.
because my workload was such that I needed to just knock
You
it
need
out.
this stuff out. Yeah.
And I I knew that I needed that production mindset,
Right.
and I needed for it to remain like a factory floor,
Sure. Yeah.
but I needed to break out of that rut, and I didn't that this was before Claude and Chat GPT and all of the things really became big, and so I think it's good to, but then again, that's what I mean, Google Images can give you the same sort of, "Oh, I didn't think about this." And I mean,
Sure. It's Pinterest with AI generated
Pinterest,
behind it. Yeah. So I like that whole concept. Yeah.
art, and music are all to a point. I mean, there's nothing new under the sun. I think that everything has a kernel of inspiration from something else most of the time.
I think you nailed it there. I think the biggest things that I've seen creative people talk about that is helpful in is that empty page dilemma,
Yes.
where you have an empty page, it's writer's block.
Just need to
I
start.
just need to kick it off.
Yeah.
Well, how do I kick it off in a meaningful way? And if you can talk to yourself about how you do that, then you can prompt it.
Mm.
And prompt it sometimes will kick it off better. I think that I love that idea. I'm with you though. I worry that it skips so many other steps where that iterative, process in the
Yeah.
beginning from your sketches to your ideations get skipped over, and that's the fun. Man, it's the fun seeing the old sketches that worked, and then even the ones that didn't work.
Right.
That's cool to look back on and see it. So I dig that. So yeah. Um, I wanted to have you give advice to younger designers. You got one thing you could say to them? They're just getting into the field. What's one thing you would try to instill on them so they can progress and feel good about their progression and start making a mark for themselves?
Well, okay, so I like to say, two things. You invited me a couple years ago to start getting involved with speaking in front of college students,
Right.
and it's been a great experience. I've spoken at UAH and at the Alabama Center for the Arts, and it's been really nice. And the two things that I've learned, and of course, I wasn't formally trained as a graphic designer. I was a religion and philosophy major. Um, I sometimes joke that I was a women's studies major because that's most of what I did for 4 years. But I think that first and foremost, use your eyeballs. I tell people go down the wine aisle at the grocery store.
Nice.
There's so many varied label designs and shapes and finishing effects and
Yes.
textures
Very good.
uh, and when you see something that turns you on, ask yourself, why is this doing it for me?
Right.
And then if it's a color combination, there's no copyright on a color combination. Take that
Take
with
it.
you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take that, place it on your heart, and like go run with it. And then another thing is stop comparing yourself to other people.
I like that. Yeah.
And I run into that a lot since I'm not a degree holding graphic designer. I had a studio art minor and a fine arts education formally through high school and earlier than that. But I do feel sometimes that I used to feel insecure about hanging out with other designers who went to school for this, had
Yep.
BFAs and MFAs. But you can only compare yourself to your yesterday's self, and
Nice.
if you're growing from who you were in the past, that's a win. Take that.
I agree, and I wanna say one thing to that, what always makes it so true. I'll have, like, my favorite bands, musicians will say, "Oh my god, I went to this show, and I saw this guy play, and I wanted to quit playing."
Mm.
And I'm so glad that's not the case because they wound up being my favorite
Right.
musician and or my favorite artist because they saw some other artists and they're like,
But
"Oh, they made me wanna quit,"
it
and I'm
does happen.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, everybody. It's true with everybody, even though you know that's not the way you should approach things. It's hard to kind of get over that, but I think I'm glad that people do, right?
But maybe, yeah, maybe the better mindset is what a brilliant world this is that we get to be inspired by so many people.
That's wonderful. All right, man, we're gonna shift gears here. We're gonna slide right into some music. Again, I mentioned you play with the band The Silver Silos. Seen you guys play for years now. Just have a new album out. And I love seeing you guys play. It's wonderful. Just saw you play a couple times ago, a couple months ago, and I want to kind of slide in that. So let's talk about the Silver Silos. Talk about how you got to the band, how you started playing.
Yeah, so I used to be an in-house graphic designer, and our webmaster retired, and the new guy that came in it was somebody that I just got chummy with really quickly, and it turned out he played upright bass in a country band, and I thought that was kind of neat, and I said, "Why don't you come over?" And we played a little bit, and then there was this guy that I went to church with, um, who came over, and it just it just gelled, and so we started a band pretty immediately, and we were on your former podcast
Right? Yeah.
for the Christmas special, and it was great fun. And you know, December 2027 will be 10 years since we had our first rehearsal.
Nice.
So
Very good. So let's get into a little bit. I always love hearing musicians that I'm a fan of talk about their influences. So let's talk a little bit about who influences you as musicians, bands, or whatever. So let's get
well,
into that.
first time you heard me play, you pegged it. You just nailed it. You knew that my North Star was a band called Uncle Tupelo.
Yeah.
And anybody that doesn't know, they were around from 89 to 93, and they broke up to become Sunvolt and Wilco.
Wilco, yeah.
And Sunvolt has had moderate success, and Wilco is their
Huge.
indie rock king.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So they're a huge influence on me. There was this kid I went to school with in college who became one of my best friends, and so much of what I listened to was stuff that was kind of pressed upon me in college, and he was neat. He passed away a couple years ago, but I wrote a song about how everything that people say, people who have accused me wrongly of being cool, the reasons that they have accused me for are things that I've learned about from that guy who was legitimately cool. And song was called Cool by Proxy.
Well, there you go.
Might play that for you later.
All right. Let's talk about, since we kind of a theme here, tell me, maybe we kind of shift here into songwriting, and maybe if it does dip into other parts, cool, let's have that conversation. But has AI played any role in songwriting?
Mostly no, with a tiny yes. The tiny yes came like 48 hours ago when I asked it to churn out. I asked it to churn out its idea for songwriting exercises. Not material.
All right.
Not material. I just needed a mental icebreaker. And I've got a couple of exercises. One was written down by Jeff Tweedy in his book, How to Write One Song.
All right.
That's not very many songs, but
you only need one.
you only need one. You only need one. Have you seen Rent? That dude in Rent thinks that all the problems in the world are going to float away if he can just finish that damn song.
The one.
Song.
Yeah.
And he did, and it was not very good.
All right. Well,
I just call him like I see him.
all right.
Old Roger there. Um, but so I reached out to my buddy Chat GPT, and it wasn't very helpful. But I just this afternoon I realized what has been lacking in my past few months when I've had really bad writer's block, and what's been lacking in my life is silence. We just got a puppy, and he's a maniac.
Well, now we know why.
Yeah, absolute maniac. And so his name's Graham, and he's wonderful. He loving my life, but I'm spending most of my time saying, "No, Graham, stop, Graham, wrong." And when I'm not doing that, he's barking. And it has made it hard to just kind of quiet down.
Quiet down, yeah.
I sent him to doggy daycare today, though,
Sure, yeah.
and I think that might be the answer.
The answer. You got to wear them out.
But I think I don't know. How are you with? Do you ever just need complete silence to get your thoughts straight?
Yes, of
Yeah.
course, yes, absolutely.
I don't know why that's a novel, revolutionary concept for me, but it was
Yeah.
a eureka moment today
Okay.
and I think maybe not that the quiet's important. I think I just realized that I didn't
Have it.
have it.
Yeah. Totally.
Because he was at doggy daycare and it was suddenly eerily quiet in the house, and I loved it. But then I got excited when he came home. So
Well, there you go. All right, here's one for you. I kind of prepped you for this, so here we go. 3 bands, living or not, 1 show. Who are they? What's the order?
okay. So I did think about it.
All right.
And I've got the 2 for sure, and while I'm blabbing, I might
Come up with a third one. All right. 2's good enough. We can start there.
Well, so do you know who Nick Drake was?
I'm not familiar with Nick Drake.
He was kind of a folky British guy, and he was one of the 27 Club,
Okay.
and he came out with like 3 albums, and they were all perfect. And his voice kind of sounded like a cello. Like seriously, I'm gonna send you his stuff.
Okay, very good.
But and he got big a couple years ago because Volkswagen started playing his songs. He died in the 60s, or maybe 70. But Keith Richards said that you could turn Nick Drake up to 10 and he would still sound quiet. But he was just a mercurial, really interesting fella. And so I would want him to open the show.
Okay.
And then I would like to see Uncle Tupelo in their heyday.
It's a great one.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And because they'll never reunite, they hate each other now. So I mean, those are the big 2.
Okay.
And I know for sure those 2.
Okay. Well, good enough.
Very
And
influential.
you can add a third one later. We'll put in a post or something like that.
Yeah, do it. Yeah.
All right, so I wanted to also shout out that Silver Silos are playing here locally and
Yeah.
not locally. We can't talk about some of that stuff, but
Soon enough.
I want to talk a little bit about. You tell me about Tip Top, because you got a show coming up in August 15th
15th
at
yeah.
Tip Top, right?
Yeah.
So
There's gonna be a comedy show, and they called me up. I think they've got new ownership, and they
Yeah,
reached out.
that's right.
And asked if we would play the after show, and I broke out in the sweat because I just turned 43, which is 20 years older than I used to be,
Right.
And that's a lyric.
There you go.
There I go.
Oh, jot that down.
Yes, but they want us to play from 9:30 to 11:30, and so
They don't know you're 43.
well, I'm a coffee guy.
All
so
right.
I'm gonna work on that, and I'll be ready to go. Tip Top's great. It was
Yep.
around in the 80s, and everybody played there.
Yep.
And then they closed down like a lot of rock clubs do, and
Forever.
yeah,
Yeah.
forever. And
Yeah.
then they
Recently opened back up.
recently opened again.
And I've been to a show there, and it's like the glory
We
days. So
played the loudest Silver Silo show we'd ever played recently there.
Okay.
It was great.
All right.
Ryan Tillery was on drums.
Nice.
It was terrific. He was the first drummer for Jason Isbell in the 400 unit.
Oh, no kidding.
He's just just a sweetheart, and he plays in the Waco Kids, and
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
so he's good.
All right. Well, we're short on time here. So if you guys want to check out Taylor, you're looking at silversilos.com.
TheSilverSilos.com.
TheSilversilos.com.
If
You get that album, right?
Yep, absolutely.
And
We've got our
stickers and
Bible
shirts
Black
and all that
vinyl.
shit. Yeah,
Yep.
nice. And then you also got TaylorBurtonCreative.com, which is they can reach out to you for design projects and stuff like that.
Anything
Right.
from bus wraps to business cards to, I mean, I do all sorts of stuff. So
Wonderful. One last thing, I do want to give a shout out to Low Mill Arts and Entertainment for having us here today. Taylor McLendon for lending us his studio at number 255, and the closing reception night is August 29th. Everybody, give it up for Taylor. Thank you so much for being here, man. Appreciate it. And you're gonna play us a song, right?
Yep,
All right,
absolutely.
cool. You brought your guitar, so you're gonna
Yeah.
play us a song. So stay tuned for that.
Thanks.
All right, man.
This is a new one. It's called Hey No. Hey no, don't go. I know my face says get the hell out, but you don't have to go. I get the sway when my focus is shot. I know you need someone who hears you at the end of the day. Let me be the man you turn to. Hey, no, don't speak. Your eyes already said everything. Let me buy you a drink. I wanna hear about all of those things. Then I know you need someone to hold you at the end of the day. Let me be the man you turn to. I know you don't like it when you compete for my time. Everyone else gets me at my prime. I know you need someone who hears you at the end of the day. Let me be the man who I know you need. Someone to hold you at the end of the day. Let me be the man you turn to. Thank you.